And welcome everyone today for today's session on Control, Govern, and Secure SharePoint on-premise or online. My name is Mark Dunkel. I'm a U.S. Education Technology Specialist for SharePoint. I'm also joined by Axceler and specifically Amira Hamani, Sales Engineer. You can also see Amira's email address on the slide below. So I would like to thank Axceler. Axceler is a great partner of ours. They've been a great partner in Microsoft for quite some time, particularly in the SharePoint space, where I've dealt with them a lot throughout the years. This webcast series is really designed to help customers mature and understand all the different varieties of solutions that are out there that our partner community is developing. There's a lot of horizontal and vertical solutions that our partners develop on SharePoint that can really help extend and mature how you're using SharePoint in really rich ways for your end users. This session, again, it will be recorded. It will be posted on a YouTube channel at SharePoint@edu, and I'll have a link at the end of the session showing that. In today's format, what we're going to do is we're going to kick it off to Axceler. We're going to have a presentation and demo type of format. And I would also encourage everyone to use the I am pane, as there are several folks from Axceler that will be on the line and will be able to answer your questions either during the presentation or we'll open it up to questions at the end of the session. So with that said, again, I would like to thank everyone for joining today, and I would like to thank Axceler for agreeing to present this webcast. And I'm going to kick it over to Amira Hamani. So Amira, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark. Definitely has been great working with the Microsoft team. Of course, as Mark mentioned, Axceler is going to be providing solutions in SharePoint governance, administration, and
there you go. Amira?
All right. Hoping that everyone can hear me now.
Yep.
This afternoon, we will be taking a look at Axceler's solution ControlPoint. But first, I wanted to go ahead and discuss a little bit about the issues that we have faced. Getting into the presentation, I feel that it's important for you guys to know a little bit about me. So as Mark mentioned, my name is Amira Hamani. I'm one of the sales engineers here at Axceler, but that's not all that my role entails. I'm definitely part of the Axceler Academy team here as well. We recently launched a webinar series, which is more interactive than the normal webinar. It's really free training sessions delivered to our clients. So if you are already clients of ControlPoint, if you are already customers of ControlPoint, you're more than welcome to attend these training sessions, which will give you more insight into the functionality itself. And of course, if you do have questions about that program, definitely feel free to contact me. I will be putting up contact information at the end of the webinar as well. So if you're not able to get that information down now, feel free to get that down at the end of the session. So in terms of Axceler and some of our clients, we definitely have done quite a bit of work in the education sector. I personally have done quite a lot of work with several clients that you'll see listed on the slide. And notice that a lot of these clients that we've listed here are higher ed. If you are from an institution which is not higher ed, I definitely guarantee to you that we have done work with several organizations that are county school systems, K through 12 institutions. So really, it doesn't stop at just higher ed. We'll be talking about references that have assisted both higher ed as well as K through 12 and other educational institutions that we've worked with. I myself am a Florida Gator, which is why I've gone ahead and put that icon first up here, that logo first. But all of these logos, other than the Florida Gator logo, are put in no particular order. Definitely are all clients of ours, has been working with our product for many different reasons, which we'll discuss as we go through today. When we're taking a look at ways to control, govern, and secure SharePoint. There are many different pieces that come to mind. Some of the pieces that do come to mind, some of the pieces that really are pain points for people in the SharePoint space are SharePoint permissions. Whether you're working with a centralized model, a decentralized model, whether you're on-premise or online, permissions tends to be the real main point of focus when we tend to demo our products. You can go ahead and assign your permissions in whatever method you choose, Active Directory groups, SharePoint groups, moving on to the cloud using the single sign-on, ADFS. Really, whatever method you choose, we'll be able to report against those permissions and help you also make choices, go ahead and resolve those issues as you move forward. One of the issues that a lot of educational institutions face is the fact that students are not part of the institution forever. They come, they study, and they usually tend to leave after 4 or 5 or maybe 6 years. When we're talking about higher ed, when we're talking about K through 12, depending on the institution, they may be in the system for up to 12 or 13 years. But really, you want to be able to do some recycling there. You want to be able to manage those users well, and we give you the access, and we'll talk about different ways in which we can do that during the demonstration of ControlPoint. Usage and activity tends to also be important because you're interested in understanding what pieces do tend to grab popularity, which areas tend not to be so popular, tend not to be so active. And so we'll be able to give you a snapshot across the board, really to understand, not only against one site collection or one web application, but if you're working with one or many farms, feel free to take a look across all of those objects at once. Go ahead and set up alerts and enforce policies. I know that when Mark and his team came into our site and we discussed some of the different pain points that a lot of institutions have faced, some of the points that came up were being able to delegate responsibility to other individuals, but still being able to control the delegation. While you're going ahead and delegating responsibilities, there may be different levels of delegation as well. Maybe faculty and staff might have one level, whereas students may have another level of access. And so we're able to, through our policies, really make sure that the levels that you'd like to enforce, the policies that you'd like to put in place are of your choice. When we take a look at the environment then, it's definitely important to clean up those users once they've left the organization, but it's also important to clean up sites once they're not in use. So we're going to be able to help with both of those aspects. We're also going to help configure the environment. If you'd like a fairly uniform environment with the same site theme or the same settings across the board, then come into our product and we'll be able to propagate those settings across the board for you against the selection of your choice.
And Amira, if you don't mind me interjecting, this is an area where, particularly in education, we see a lot, initially a lot of folks were using SharePoint as an intranet for document management, collaboration, the internal operations of the institution, which Axceler still can really help you with managing all those policies and the different folks that are coming and going within your organization. But when it comes to what we've been seeing over the last, I'd say, 18 months, is a dramatic increase in creating classrooms. And when you think about creating classrooms, you might have multiple semesters. People are coming and going in a dramatic type of fashion, and Axceler is a great solution for those type of solutions as well, as far as provisioning those permissions as well as deprovisioning those accounts as well. So just to kind of pinpoint in education where we see a definite demand in that area about quickly provisioning and deprovisioning those accounts.
And definitely extending that even further, You know, say you're a professor that's teaching a certain course, you know that the same students are going to be moving on to a different course or a different classroom. You don't have to recreate it from scratch. Use the settings that you already have in one place and be able to duplicate those to other locations, whether they're in the same site collection, the same web application, really understanding how to make the process a lot more efficient is where we come in.
Absolutely.
What I also see with educational institutions, with other institutions as well, is having an importance to really report against storage. Some institutions like to utilize a chargeback model, have different departments being charged for the amount of storage that they utilize. And with our reports that tend to be very clean, nice, allow you to report against the entire environment at once, we will be able to assist you in deploying that chargeback model. Because you have that information, you will be able to move on smoothly down the road. Also, go ahead and set up alerts, set up automated reports so that you're sending this information out to the individuals that are interested. So we'll talk about how any of the reports that we're talking about can be exported, can be scheduled, because if you want to be able to send them out to specific individuals, if you want to have them accessible on a dashboard on your internet, we'll go ahead and use the methods we'll be talking about. Be able to easily monitor those trends. Moving over time, you want to really be able to understand how quickly SharePoint is picking up so that you can attribute the correct amount of resources to this platform. If you see 50% growth in the past year, you of course want to be able to nurture that growth moving forward, especially if you've gone ahead and invested in this platform. You want to be able to make sure that you're not truncating that growth for any particular reason. So definitely something you can take a look at moving forward. For those of you that do have FERPA-compliant documents on file, for those of you that do have any other type of regulated documents on file, it may be very important and strategic for you to be able to audit that information on the platform. And we'll be able to extend our auditing functionality to any area within your environment, really understand what you're taking a look at in one clean-cut report rather than taking a look at 4 or 5 different SQL tables for which you may need an additional resource to come in and assist you with. Also, if you have governance plans or policies in place, we're definitely going to assist you in enforcing that governance plan. We talked a little bit about the policies earlier, but we'll see how these policies will help play in with the governance plan you already have in place or the one that you are forming, and we'll be able to assist you building that plan moving forward as well. And finally, the point that I have here as the last point is gaining a centralized or decentralized approach in your environment. Talking to several clients, I've seen that many institutions work alike and differ from one another as well. So in K through 12, the trend that is seen is usually everyone has more of a centralized approach when it comes to IT. And higher ed is usually the opposite. You have more of a decentralized approach. And to be able to support that, ControlPoint allows you to centralize in the areas where you have that decentralized approach. And this comes in even more with SharePoint Online, Office 365. You're going to be able to, even though the environment will be centralized across several different site collections, you'll be able to have one place where you can take a look at everything, manage everything to have that centralized approach. And then in the organizations where you purely have a centralized model, you might want to push off some of that responsibility to your power users, to your site owners, to site collection admins, whatever the case may be, to really make the environment a little bit more efficient. So really the high-level approaches that we'll be taking a look at as we go through the product. Definitely if you have questions, feel free to put them in the IM box as we go on. And at the end, we will set aside some time to answer those questions specifically. When we're taking a look at SharePoint governance and administration, definitely those 10 areas that I touched upon just now play really well to the education industry, to the education clients that we have. But, of course, every institution is unique. I've seen many institutions with needs outside of those that I showed on the previous slide. So we do offer much more. Axceler has a great view of governance and management. Many people define these in different ways, which is why we provide functionality across the board in many areas. And this is all part of one product, which we call ControlPoint. We'll go ahead and take a look at ControlPoint now. Really get an idea of this product, this solution that Mark and I have been talking about this afternoon with you folks. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do is actually switch gears here a bit. And here in front of us, we actually have the ControlPoint UI. ControlPoint is a solution that is installed as a web application on-premise. It's installed as a site collection in the cloud, depending on your structure. And we'll talk a little bit more about the cloud, but for now, let's talk about on-premise environments. When we're looking at ControlPoint then, when you sign in, depending on your level of access, you will see your farm hierarchy on the left according to where you have full control or site collection admin privileges. If you have farm admin rights, as I do, you will see the entire environment and be able to perform farm-level actions and reporting. If you have multiple farms in your environment, then you'll see those, as I see multiple farms here, represented by these houses. But if in your environment you are just a site collection admin, a site owner, a power user, then don't be afraid. You'll still be able to use ControlPoint. All you would see is the navigation coming down into that area, see the farm, see the web app in which your site collection is housed. Within the web app itself, find the site collection that you might be admin for or which holds your site for which you are owner, and be able to easily tell where exactly you have that access, because those are going to be the only places that you will see in this hierarchy. Based on where you have that access, then, you will be able to right-click and perform the functionality accessible at that level of scope. At a site collection level, we may want to get into activity analysis. We may need to go into the auditing and the alerting functionality. We may decide to help configure the environment, maybe set those site properties, the list properties, and the features across multiple objects at once. We may choose to also come in and do some storage reporting, or what I find is used the most, really it's the bread and butter of the solution, is permissions management, especially in the education industry, because you're going to find that even if you currently have your environment just deployed to staff and faculty, it's still very difficult to manage a large user base. You're going to be working with staff that may be shuffled out into different departments. You need to go ahead and manually assign those permission settings. Otherwise, if you haven't purchased or invested in a tool like ours, and we'll talk about the different ways that we really assist in the permissioning aspect. When we're taking a look at the menus, just very simply, I did want to point out that you'll be able to see the actions up at the top and the reporting capabilities down at the bottom. And if you find that this functionality might be a little bit too much for your site collection admins, your power users, they don't need anywhere as much as the functionality that you see here, that's fine. These menus can definitely be trimmed to only include the functionality that they need to see. And that's a big selling point for a lot of institutions that we've worked with. Really being able to customize this for maybe the professors in a different way than they have customized it for the students, maybe the staff that they have working within the organization, working within IT, or maybe even for the help desk. And you can set up those customized groups, customized levels, so that those individuals see exactly what you need them to see. When we're taking a look at the environment as well, something that I did point out is being able to take a look at multiple objects at one time. And so you can actually come in and select those different pieces within the environment, right-click on all of those pieces at once, and be able to perform a common piece of functionality against all of these. So whether that's running a report by site or by user, sometimes you want to identify exactly where specific people have access. Well, we can go ahead and do that for you. We can also go ahead and find people with specific permission levels. If you've come up with custom permission levels, then we'll show you those in this list as well, and you'll be able to select from those options. I'll go ahead and find everyone with full control within these areas. And using a cached report, we're able to actually utilize the data store that's installed with our product. This data store will allow for a nightly discovery process to take place, and we're able to gather information within that data store, allowing us to accumulate this information in a very quick way. Now, remember I did mention that however those permissions are assigned, we will be able to report against them. So you can actually see a list of all of the users that do have full control within this report. You'll also see a couple links, and these links represent the Active Directory groups that do have access, that do have full control somewhere within the selection that we've chosen. If I were to go ahead and click on any one of these links, what that would do is actually bring up a list of all of the users within that group, the sales group in this case. And if there is any type of nesting within the group itself, you'd be able to see that in this list as well. So regardless of the fact of whether I have access into Active Directory or not, I'm still going to gain the visibility that I need to understand exactly who has access within the different areas that I've chosen. If I go ahead and expand the entry, I will actually be able to see exactly who has that full control permission level. And in this case, I've expanded James Joyce to see where he has access, and take that a step further to go ahead and sum up the information that you get through SharePoint all in one place to see that, yes, James Joyce has full control to Alpha Snack Foods, and he's received this control through membership in the owners group. Now, if you do have any areas, any professors that assign their permissions differently, if they assign direct access even though you tell them not to, you may see those permissions in these reports as well. But we definitely have ways to be able to single those direct permissions out. We have ways to assist you in cleaning up those permissions by recommending where those permissions should be placed or where those users should be placed in terms of SharePoint groups. When we take a look at the scheduling patterns of these reports, of course, you may need to report on these parameters on an ad hoc basis. And if that is the case, go ahead and send this out to Excel, to PDF, download as CSV files, print them out, really do whatever you need on an ad hoc basis, but also on a scheduled basis. So you're going to be able to come in, choose the parameters you need if the CIO requires a report on a weekly basis. Well, let's go ahead and keep the CIO happy by setting this up on a weekly basis, and maybe until the end of 2015, we want to go ahead and email out this report. Just add in the email address for the CIO here, and we'll keep them happy. We also might need to send this report to a common location in SharePoint so that multiple users can see it in one place. So instead of having to email this report to everyone in the help desk, let's put it in one common place so that they can all access it there. Now, if you have a delegated model, if you have site owners, power users that you know would benefit from this information, instead of doing the dirty work and identifying who those individuals are, who the professors are within any department, who those admins are, who the experts are within your environment, go ahead and have us find exactly who corresponds to the admin definition that you've set, whether it's contribute access, whether it's full control. We'll not only find those users, but send them this report. And if you've gone ahead and also clicked here, Create Reports by Selection Hierarchy, we'll make sure that the people receiving these reports are only receiving the report against the area in which they have that admin privilege. So if I am the admin of herbs and spices, if someone comes in and sets the report up against the entire web application even, I'm going to be found, and I'll be sent the report only for herbs and spices. Great. If you do need dashboards, all you would have to do is select the output type of a SharePoint list. It will ask you for the distribution site where you'd like this list to be placed. And based on that then, you can go ahead and develop your dashboard directly in SharePoint. Now, another thing that we run into with educational institutions is dealing with the turnover, the shuffling between departments, the users that come in, the students especially, that come in are students for a temporary amount of time and then they leave. They get disabled or deleted within Active Directory. And so how do we take care of those users? We have in our product an orphan domain user report allowing you to identify those users that have been deleted or disabled, still hanging on to permissions within SharePoint so that now you don't have to go one by one into those individual areas. We will assist you in identifying exactly where they still hang on to permissions, show you that information all in one place. And if we come up with the 3 names that I've seen here, well, maybe I want to go ahead and delete all of these permissions at one time. Well, that's fine. I can go ahead and do that. I may also be interested in coming in and seeing where any one of these users still holds permissions. So I can take a look at the permissions and also the source of those permissions if that is necessary. But take this a step further, click on the links, and be able to pull up directly a delete user permissions action. So a lot of the reports that we have are going to be actionable for you to be able to combine the process of what gets involved when people leave the organization or with any type of report. And we'll see that on and on as we go through the demonstration. Looking at this user, maybe we want to go ahead and delete SharePoint alerts in my site, something that tends to be another tedious task. Reassign those permissions over to the person replacing this individual. And I see this being used more in the faculty staff setting. But definitely, in any case, you also have the possibility of backing up those permissions before the operation. So we do offer you the capabilities of backing up and restoring those permissions just in case we have that issue where someone restores permissions inheritance across their entire area, or your pet walks across your keyboard as you're doing permissions assignment. Whatever the case is, we're going to allow you to either do those one-time backups so that you have them for a restore, or what I prefer, schedule those backups so you know that you always have a backup maybe a week behind, a month behind. You can always go ahead and restore it, keeping you from working from scratch. Now, of course, some other areas of focus are activity reporting, because if you are utilizing SharePoint, you want to go ahead and understand where those users are really demonstrating activity, where they are creating the greatest amount of page views, and whether that's across one site collection that you want to identify that information across the web application, across the farm. All you have to do is select that level of scope, right-click, come into the activity reporting menus, and the most popular report that I've seen in terms of activity with the users that I speak with is the most least activity report. And the reason for this is because we're not only going to limit you to the activity across sites or site collections, we'll actually be able to get into the list and list items, the pages, the users that have been most active. If you're a professor, I'm sure you would want to know which item your students have most popularly accessed and when that was done. So you're going to be able to identify across whatever date range you're interested. It doesn't have to be the past 30 days. It doesn't have to be the past year. Whatever date range that is, we'll be able to take a look at it. Very quickly, I'll go ahead and do this across the past 13 months in terms of sites and site collections. And using cache data, this will turn out to be a very quick report as well. In the threshold, I've specified the top 10 results, but if you are interested in looking at the top 50 results for any parameter or more, feel free to change that number. When we say we're looking at the top 10 site collections with most activity, we not only get the number of page views or the average unique users per day, but also some size-related information, because that tends to be important as well. If we're generating quite a few page views, we also want to see maybe it is a larger site, and that's why we are getting more of those views. Now, say I wanted to get more information on Alpha Snack Foods. The red link takes me into a deeper report across the sub-sites within Alpha Snack Foods. If I did want to get into SharePoint, though, we offer a seamless transition into SharePoint by just going ahead and clicking on the link here. Any blue links will take you into SharePoint for further information. Now, not too much excitement going on with my site collections with least activity, so I'll skip over to the sites that have been most and least active, and you get a good representation of not only those page views and the size here, but also the last access and the last update. If you're using SharePoint for your intranets, you want to make sure that the information that your users are seeing is up to date. And of course, if it is one of the most accessed pages, most accessed sites, I want to make sure that the last update corresponds very closely to the last access date itself. And in case if it doesn't, you do have the name of the creator listed here so that you can contact them for any information, if you want to inform them to let them know that they need to update their site as well. When we see the sites with least activity, definitely lots of information here as well. We're going to be able to cater this to your needs, taking a look at the page views and the last update. Now, if the pages haven't been accessed in the past 12 months, 24 months, whatever date range you're interested in, well, maybe you have a policy internally that states, okay, the next process is to go ahead and delete these sites or to go ahead and reassign them to other users. And I can take whatever action I'd like. All I have to do is click on the select button, add these items to a selection builder from which I'm going to be able to perform the operation of choice directly from the top menus that I have here. Whether that's activity related, whether it's reassignment related and I need to transfer the permissions to someone else, whether it's just simply content related and I need to go ahead and delete these sites. Well, I can go ahead and choose that option, and prior to the deletion, I can export them to CAD files, including the security, so that if in any case I do need to restore these sites moving forward, I will be able to do so using my own restoration methods, but I have all the security intact so that I don't need to start from scratch. So this is really talking about the usage, activity aspect of things. Also, what we spoke about earlier is going into the aspect of policy enforcement. And the policies that we have are two different types of policies. So instead of going first into the policies, I'd like to show you some of the functionality that surrounds having a fairly uniform environment. We were talking about configuring the environment, managing the environment in a way that you can best utilize the functionality and make sure that SharePoint is doing what you need it to do. If you would like to utilize a common theme across all of your internal sites, across all of your external sites, for those of you who may be using SharePoint even external facing, you can go ahead and identify the areas where you might be using certain themes, certain templates, certain web parts. And in the case where you do have a designated theme across the campus, across your institution, and it's not being used, go ahead and find out where that is the case. I can go ahead and run a search on one or many parameters at one time, run the search to really identify which places don't have that theme. And of course, if I find several results, I actually have 119 sites that don't correspond to this theme, I can go ahead and select all of these results at one time. I can add all of these items to a selection builder as we saw earlier, but this time come into configuration and set the site properties to correspond to the theme that I'd like. Now, not only can I come in here and set up the site theme corresponding to what I need to enforce across these areas, I can set that up on a one-time basis by just clicking Run Now, or I also have the option of coming in and clicking on Enforce Policy. And through this Enforce Policy, what this is actually a scheduled policy. It will allow me to come in on maybe an hourly basis, on a nightly basis, to have ControlPoint check to make sure that these settings that I've placed here are currently the ones that are still intact. And if they are, then great. We won't do anything. If they have been changed at all, we'll make sure that we'll enforce the theme of your selection. And that will be done on whatever basis you've scheduled here. So we have several policies that can be enforced on a scheduled basis. A lot of those have to do with configuring the environment, making sure that the settings that you've gone ahead and applied when you've created these areas, or when you've gone ahead and edited the areas themselves, are being held on to moving forward. Now, something else that was definitely interesting to quite a few education clients that I've spoken to are the proactive policies, because it's great to have that scheduled policy to make sure that on an hourly basis I can check to make sure that these settings are in place. But if you want to be proactive with your enforcement, if you want to be able to prevent and or notify based on several operations, then ControlPoint policies are for you. And we'll be able to take a look at many different policies. Some of the policies that really play to the education department, educational institutions that I've spoken to, are definitely the file upload size for one, because instead of applying that file upload size just at the web app level in SharePoint, here we can help you get more granular. Maybe certain classrooms need different upload size limits. Maybe certain areas, maybe video requires a higher level of upload limits. You can go ahead and customize those limits to what you need. Now, when we're taking a look at these limits, you may also want to specify these limits by users rather than by location. So when we are going ahead and taking a look at certain users, we might want to apply policies to specific users. If it's a common group, a common SharePoint group, Active Directory group that you'd like to apply a lower limit to, well, feel free to do so. And if you've extended SharePoint to your students, then maybe you want to apply a more strict limit to your students. Maybe it's just 1 megabyte for your students themselves. What I've seen, though, in many institutions, especially those that haven't yet rolled out to their students, is that you want to be able to exclude selected users from a policy. Maybe you want to set up a limit that allows your users to upload something up to 5 megabytes. And there may be a group or two that requires a higher limit. And so you can go ahead and specify that group in this box here, excluding them from this 5 megabyte limit. They'd still be restricted by the limit at the web app level, but they will not be subject to this limit here. Now, you can also send an email to the policy violator letting them know exactly why their action has been prevented. You'll also be able to use this email to direct these users to the people above the policy, so that if someone in a video collaborative group is restricted by this policy and only the help desk is above the policy now, well, the help desk can go ahead and approve that content and get it uploaded for this individual. Something else that definitely tends to be important is the custom content creation policy. And the custom content creation policy actually allows us to catch documents that have been uploaded with certain content in them. You can go ahead and enter the logic strings of your choice, and we'll be able to catch that content and notify you upon that upload. And so a lot of institutions that I've spoken to, especially those that are interested in blocking those expletives that may be uploaded into SharePoint, can use this custom content creation policy to at least be informed and notified as soon as that information gets uploaded, so that we can make sure that it gets removed as soon as possible. Now, finally, I did have a few other areas that we wanted to touch upon quickly. One area is definitely the storage reporting aspect. And if we're working on an on-prem environment, then we may be interested in running a content database report, really understanding where the storage lies across different content databases. We can help you rebalance the load across those databases as well. You may also be interested in the most or least storage, just similar to what we looked at in the activity reporting, but this time it's in terms of storage. And so I can, at the same time, take a look at the activity. What I've seen in education, though, has been really important, really priceless in some cases, is the storage by file type, because you have those policies at the web app level allowing you to limit certain file types, but without any insight, it's hard to understand which file types should be placed in those policies. And here, with the storage by file type monitors, you'll be able to quickly understand which areas have the most storage by the number of files, by the size, and you can actually get even deeper into any of these areas to see exactly which items are the largest out of any of these extensions. So this definitely plays itself to a lot of the needs that we've found in education. You can take a look at these reports and take those appropriate actions directly from these reports. But as we talked about, as we got into the UI, ControlPoint does support a decentralized or a centralized approach. If you need to push this environment out to the users that can then control their own sites, can control their own classrooms, maybe they want to be able to manage the permissions against those areas, go ahead and duplicate not only user permissions but across sites. Make sure you have the provisioning that you need across those different classrooms. You may just be interested in the auditing perspective, really being able to get very detailed information against the item level, against the sites, against the lists, and finding out exactly who's doing what, where, and when. So whatever these cases are, whatever your needs may be across the board, we'll be able to assist you. As we get into the future, it's important to really see that moving forward, Microsoft has done quite a bit of work on Office 365. So as we go ahead and transition into Office 365, it's important to understand that the platform has done a lot of work in making sure that it is a very successful platform. It is error-free in those cases. And you're going to be able to have a consistent experience across many different mediums, whether you're on your computer, whether you're on the phone accessing these sites, whether you're on tablets. One of the new pieces of functionality coming out with ControlPoint, whether you're using it on-premise or online, is going to be iPad support. And whether you're going ahead and using this functionality for any of these different areas, you'll be able to touch upon this. You'll be able to have the power of choice, meaning whether you choose to move everything onto the cloud, whether you choose to have an on-premise environment, or if you choose to have that hybrid approach. We support all of those instances, and when you're talking about ControlPoint Online, one of the greatest gaps that we fill when it comes to the cloud, when it comes to SharePoint Online, is being able to really understand that administration, security, and that one centralized approach was a great gap in the process. And so we were definitely able to fill in those gaps with ControlPoint, bringing that to the cloud. And so definitely if you are interested, I will be putting up some information as to how you can get in touch with us. Just really quick about the organization itself. We definitely have been improving collaboration for the past 17 years. And over that time, we've worked with many different institutions. We've been working with quite a few educational institutions, as you saw earlier, and definitely those were just a taste of some of our customers, definitely many more that are part of our customer base, and we definitely hope that you will be joining that in the near future as well. And just a quick look at the rest of our portfolio. So today we've talked about ControlPoint, but other than ControlPoint, we also do offer DaVinci. So if you do have environments that are still on 2003 or 2007, we, along with SharePoint and Microsoft's team, would really enjoy if you were to get on the latest and greatest. We know that there is quite a lot of functionality accessible to you moving forward to the 2010 platform, to the online platform. And so we want you to be able to make use of that as well. And so DaVinci does allow you to migrate to 2010. Along with that, if you do have any Windows file shares, File Loader is a solution for you to be able to migrate those into SharePoint. And finally, we have ControlPoint. And ControlPoint is what we saw in the webinar today, really being able to control, govern, and secure SharePoint through the many different options that we provide to you. So at this point, I'd really like to open it up to questions. If you do have questions, you can go ahead and direct those to the chat box, to the IM box within Link, and we can go ahead and take those as they come. And definitely, if you do have questions, moving forward, you can definitely go ahead and reach out to me. My email address is listed here, amira.himani@axceler.com. I've also listed questions@axceler.com, which is a great resource for you to use if you do have any questions about our products, if you do have any questions for our team here. Definitely feel free to use those. And if you're on LinkedIn or Twitter, make sure you find me so that we can go ahead and contact each other after the fact. And I think, Mark, I think this would be a great time for you to go ahead and put up that last slide.
Excellent. So, Amira, I used to be I work at Microsoft. I've been here for quite a while. I used to be a former SharePoint admin. I've known about Axceler for quite some time, and how long you guys have been just really excellent partners. So I'm sure that anyone who's looked at that webcast, as a former SharePoint admin or site collection administrator, can understand the power and the breadth. And every time I see what you guys have developed from a person that used to run SharePoint, I'm just continually impressed, and it's just truly a fantastic solution, not only for the IT side, but even for right down to site collection or site owner. The amount of insight and control over storage permissions, so on, et cetera, is really it's really great, and you did a wonderful job presenting that. So thank you. I really appreciate that. But I would like to say that, remind everyone that, again, my name is Mark Dunkel, and if you wanted to email me, if you have any questions, please feel free to do so. Even if you have suggestions for upcoming webcasts, there's certain partner solutions that you'd like to see. You can find Axceler very accessible. Again, they've been incredible SharePoint partners for a very long time, Microsoft partners. You can go to their website to learn a little bit more. Mira shared some links as well in email to contact them directly if you like. I'd also want to point you to some additional resources that we do have available for you. So we do have our education webcast. So if you go to www.educationwebcast.com, you're going to find a lot of webcasts around all sorts of education webcasts around our products and our product stack. This particular recording is going to be posted on a YouTube channel at the link that you see here before at SharePoint@edu within 24 hours of this webcast. So by tomorrow at this time, and by the weekend by the time the weekend starts, this video will be recorded. So if you wanted to show this to some of your colleagues or peers, you can go ahead and do that. Also, I wanted to point out that we do have an online SharePoint 2010 demo environment with specific K-12 scenarios that you can go ahead and test drive, both higher education K-12, and you can find that at www.microsoftpublicsectordemos.com or microsoftpsdemos.com. So with that said, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. I appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you on future webcasts in the future. So thank you very much. Have a great day.